Hello, hello. Come on in and get settled in for today's pep talk. Who needs a pep talk today? We want to help you. What's that, Barbara?
Every day.
Every day. We need a pep talk every day. Come on in and get your pep talk, guys. Get your pep talk. All right. Today we are going to talk about, we're going to teach you how to stop shuffling and start deciding. And I don't mean shuffleboard shuffling or card shuffling. We mean shuffling papers and email. I mean, we can shuffle emails too, don't we, Barbara? People can shuffle emails as well as paper. So that is our topic for today. We want to help you stop shuffling so you can start deciding. And I'm going to give you an idea of what I mean by that. So let me take that off so we can just sit here and connect with you and hang out with you guys for a little bit. So I actually just got back from a conference in Phoenix. It was a last minute quick. I was on the phone with somebody on Monday and I was on a plane on Tuesday. No planning, no anything other than just getting there. And so it was a really productive event. And, I came home with the usual. If you guys go to events or conferences or trainings or workshops, you come home with a stack of business cards. And I was just talking to Barbara about it. I did get some business cards, but most of the items were, where you pulled up your phone and you could, you through the air and all that, where you just exchange information with your phone, right? And so, of course, I had business cards. I have these new contacts in my phone. I took, notes the entire time. How many of you guys have done that? You have all these notes from a conference or an event, and you've got these great ideas, and you can't wait to go back and implement them. And then, sometimes they give you a folder. They gave us a folder with some really awesome worksheets. Some of the worksheets were completed at the event. Some were to take home and process on my own. And in the past, I would have done what probably 90%, maybe there's 10% of you on here that do it differently. And Barbara, I'm curious about you because you've been traveling and going to the conferences and things like that for years. But in my former life, I would just come home and I would drop my bags and I would move on to something else. I'd be, seeing what I missed while I was here and unpack eventually. And then look at that pile of business cards and go, oh, I need to get to those. Oh, I need to put those in my CRM. Oh, I need to reach out to those people. And by the time I ever did it, they would actually have already reached out to me. So they beat me to the punch. So this time was different because we have our systems. We have our SOAR board for those of you that have known us. So I wanted to, basically what I noticed is I walked in the door this time, I dropped my bag, I set everything on the counter, and normally that pile would just sit there. And I thought that pile is a perfect illustration of exactly what we're talking about today. If you've heard Barbara's quote, clutter is postponed decisions, it would normally just sit there and wait for me to get back to it. But this time I did it a little different. But first, if you're new to us, I am Andrea Anderson. I'm the CEO of Productive Environment Institute, and I am in Carolina Beach, North Carolina, joined by...
I'm Barbara Hemphill, founder of Productive Environment Institute in Raleigh, North Carolina.
Awesome. And we are glad you are here. So today's topic, if you saw the thumbnail, it said stop shuffling and start deciding. So we're talking about flow. Okay. FLOW, flow. Specifically, how to go from bottleneck to easy flow. Now, I was using the example of the conference and coming back with contact information, business cards. That could become the bottleneck. It could be just like, oh, I got to get to those. Oh, I haven't done anything with those. And it's just piling up. And then you're adding more things to it. So we're going to talk about one framework that makes information stop piling up and start moving. That's what we mean by flow. We want things to move. Now, at this current time, we are having a not here in Carolina Beach or Raleigh, but the Northeast is having a massive blizzard right now, right? You guys, anybody that's listening, that's out there, they're getting lots of snow. And guess what happens? This actually did happen to me a few weeks ago when we had a freeze here in Carolina Beach. My water froze. My pipe froze in the condo, and there was no water flowing. It didn't have anywhere to go. it was frozen. So we don't want that. We don't want a bottleneck. So if you've ever cleaned off your desk, how many of you have ever cleaned off your desk? Raise your hand. And then watched it pile right back up again within a week. Okay. Then this episode is for you. And I want to say right now that it is not a willpower problem. It's a decision problem. And we're going to fix it today. Okay. So the pile is not the problem. It's just stuck, right? So here's the thing that most people don't realize. The pile on your desk, the stack of cards on the kitchen counter, or wherever they made it to, the folder you brought home from a conference. In fact, I've got my folder right here, going through it. So none of that is a storage problem. I have room for it all. I can put it away. But every single item in that pile is waiting for a decision that hasn't been made yet. So Barbara, you have been saying this for 40 years. Can you talk briefly about where your quote, clutter is postponed decisions, came from and how that relates to what we're talking about today?
Well, before I do that, I want to back up and highlight a word you just used. You used the word, this is not about willpower. Mm-hmm. And I'm reading a book right now, and there was a quote in it that said, environment is more powerful than willpower. And I read, it's like, oh my gosh, our company is productive environment. And we have for decades that a productive environment is an intentional setting in which you can accomplish your work and enjoy your life. So it's like, oh, I just had to bring that up. Yes. So clutter's postponed decisions just came originally, to be honest, it came from clothes closets. Because when I first started, I did some clothes closets, and that was where it was really obvious, because somebody would pull some, and I can remember this so clearly. There was a woman, I don't remember what city, I don't remember her name, but I remember the environment we were in. And I remember pulling something out of the closet and saying, how does this make you feel? And I remember the look on her face, I was like, oh. Realizing she had to make a decision about that feeling. And that translated, then immediately it became clear that the number one organizing challenge was paper. And one place where it came up all the time, I just did a podcast this morning called Unlikely Housewives, and they were talking about raising children. And one of the things they were talking about was the clutter on the kitchen counter, which is a huge problem for people. And I quickly learned that the clutter on the kitchen counter required decisions. And what would happen time and time, oh, can't do that today. Can't do that today. And then we see now in our SOAR program where we'll have people doing what we call the first sort, where they're sorting and I'll do that one later. I'll do that one later. And the pile that was on this side goes on this side. And the same thing's true of email. I mean, how many people now wake up in the morning before they even get out of bed, open up their email, unfortunately, and open, close, no decisions. And the next thing you know, there's 40 minutes have gone by and nothing has really changed except their mood, which has fallen. So deciding is critical, but then we'll talk about it isn't just deciding. There's another piece.
That's exactly right. We'll get to that. Yeah. So let's make that concrete. Think about the business card in your pile right now. Okay, maybe just one. It's there because you haven't decided. So, and you haven't decided what? Am I actually going to follow up with this person? Same with your notes from a meeting. And a lot of times I will take notes just for it's the feeling of taking notes that helps your brain. So I'll take notes sometimes and not even have an intention of doing anything with them. But these I do. There's some great quotes and some resources. I do want to do something with them. So are you going to actually follow up with the person? Are you going to do anything with those notes? The printed article, the worksheets from the event. I've got worksheets over here that are really awesome. they're not there because you're disorganized. They're there because no one has made a decision yet. So I've gotten my business cards done. Next, I've got to go into the ones that I just did with the phone, right? Where you connect the phone and you get their contact information, because otherwise they're just in your phone. Then what? There's no action has been decided yet, right? So anyway, here's why this matters. Until the decision gets made, the pile stays. It grows, it multiplies, and it takes up mental space even when you're not looking at it. So you can come back from an event and it can just sit, that pile of cards. Maybe you went to a networking event and that pile of cards just sits there and sits there and sits there. And every time you look at it, it zaps your energy, because you're thinking, oh, I got to do something with that. Oh, I really need to follow up with those people. So that pile follows you around in the back of your mind. So the solution isn't more storage. It's a faster way to decide. So this is where flow comes in. Okay. And let me just show you, to give you context, we actually have a 9-step system that we take our clients through to go from overwhelmed to optimize. There's 9 steps starting down here at the bottom and going up and over and then back over. And we are here on number 3. We are on the information flow. Okay. So we do have a method to our madness. Okay. And it's the step where clutter finally starts to move instead of stack up. And the tool that makes it work is what we call the art of organizing information. Okay. In fact, I want to show you guys, y'all get first dibs on this. My first book, my first published book, this is the not for resale copy, so it's not actually out yet, but the title of the book is Soar to Success by Mastering the Art of Organizing Information to Finally Get Things Done. So art actually stands for the 3 words that are part of our flow, okay? Art stands for action, reference, toss. Okay. So every piece of information you encounter, every card, every email, every note, every worksheet, every voicemail, every digital file lands in one of those 3 categories. That's it. There's no fourth option, guys. Those are the initial 3 decisions that you can make about any information that comes your direction. Are they the only decisions? No, but they're the initial decisions. Okay. So action means, so an ART, the art of organizing information, action means I need to do something with this. Means there is a next step. So with my cards that I picked up in Phoenix, the people I had met, anyone I need to follow up with, send a note to, connect with on LinkedIn, that's an action. Those are people that I want to reach, or people I said, I'll send you such and such, or I'll reach out to you, or I'll introduce you. Those are actions. In fact, I met someone, Barbara, all the way in Phoenix. I met somebody from Raleigh, and I told him about the Triangle Christian Chamber of Commerce that you pretty much head up or are a big part of the leadership on. And I told him I would connect him with you. So that's an action. That's an action that I need to take. So that's actually in my scoreboard now for my actions today. So it doesn't get filed away. It gets added to my scoreboard as a task with a date. Okay. Because an action without a win, write this down, y'all. An action without a win is just another postponed decision. If I just said, introduce Barbara to this person, and I didn't put when I was going to do it, or put it on my calendar, or put it in my scoreboard, it wouldn't happen. Okay. So, Barbara, what makes something truly an action versus reference? If you can share briefly, how do you know the difference between an action and a reference?
Well, one of the ways to describe it is, in an action, the ball is in my court. So it's like I've decided that it's a priority. That's a real issue. Okay. So one of the biggest issues is that all of us, including myself, think that we can do more than we actually can. I mean, it's just a reality. So part of this is a learning process in really getting, and the reason I love the scoreboard is that it forces you to measure what you're accomplishing, so you can get more skilled at saying what is it that it's really important to do. So an action means the ball's in my court, either to do it myself, or even if you delegate it. If you're a business owner, just because you've delegated something doesn't mean it's going to get done. You have to have a way to follow up and see whether it did get done. So that's one way to think about it. I want to just mention something about the business cards. Years ago, because I used to do 50 to 75 speeches a year. So and everybody did business cards then. So I'd come home with 20, 30, 40 business cards, lots of them. Yeah. And I decided there were 3 types of business cards contacts I got, 3 categories. So this was kind of the initial sort. We talk about the initial sort into action, reference, and toss. It's kind of the same with business cards. There were the business cards that were critical. I mean, these are people I really, really don't want to drop the ball. And then there are ones, well, there's nothing I want to do right now, but it's a good resource. This is because part of my skill and what my love is connecting people. And I connect people to somebody I might have met 10 years ago. So that contact is going to go in my CRM, but it's not the same as an action. And there's the toss. I mean, all of us have gone to meetings where somebody's jammed their business card in our hands and we don't really care. And part of being a successful entrepreneur is identifying who are the people you want to hang out with. And just because somebody gives you their contact info doesn't mean you have to do anything with it.
That's right. That's exactly right. So I'm going to come back to reference and toss in just a second, but I just noticed we've got some comments over here. So I think when I had asked how many of you have come home from a conference and had a bunch of stuff, I think, Amy, that was a question I asked when you said I have. So you're not alone. Demetrius is saying hello. Hello, Demetrius. Hello. Glad to have you on. Carla, hello, Andrew, Barbara, and Demetrius. Great to be live with you all. Love the conversation today. Awesome. Yes, Carla was at this event too. Carla and Demetrius were at the same event that I'm talking about, and we had a grand time together. And then Amy says, can you talk into your scoreboard and tell it something and tell it to put something in action, or do you have to type it in online? Amy, if you have an iPhone, then yes, the answer is yes. So we can share more with you. Amy just recently joined our Source Spark program. So you'll get training on that, Amy. So yes, you will be able to pick up your phone and say, I don't want to say it out loud because she'll hear me, Siri. So you say, hey, I'm Siri, save to scoreboard, and it will save it in your inbox, Amy. It'll save it in your inbox first. Then you go back and you move it to action. You're the one that makes the decision on where it goes, but it goes into your inbox first. So yes, that's really, really exciting. So let me briefly just cover, we already talked about action. And Barbara talked a little bit about reference. Let me just add a few things here. So reference means I want to keep this, but there's nothing to act on right now. It's information. So maybe that's where those cards go that you don't need to follow up with, but you keep them, you file them away somewhere, and but you want to be able to find them. So they need to go into your system. Maybe it's a contact who's good to know, but no immediate follow-up is needed. Maybe it's that folder of worksheets from the conference. You want to use them, you will use them, but you need to put them somewhere until it's actually the right time so that, again, you can find them. Okay, reference goes into the right home, your filing system, your finding system. It could be your digital drive. It could be your contacts, whatever makes sense for that type of information. You want to put them somewhere and that you can get back to them and find them. It's all about the finding system. It's all about being able to find it, right? So in toss is the one that people find the hardest. And I want Barbara to talk briefly about this. It's also the most freeing. Toss means I don't need this anymore. Gone. Okay. With my Phoenix pile, there were cards I picked up at, just some other random cards that I don't really need. I grabbed them in the moment, but honestly, they're not relevant to what I do. I could just toss those. And this applies to email, the newsletters you subscribed to 3 years ago, the attachments you've already read, you can toss them. But Barbara, I say that's the hardest to do. Toss is really usually the hardest because there's the emotional barrier that comes in where sometimes the question is, well, but what if I need it someday? Or or so and so gave it to me, or what if? So Barbara, how do you recommend addressing the emotional barrier around toss?
Well, that could be a whole book in and of itself, but let me mention a couple of things. One is what we call the art of wastebasketry, is asking yourself, what's the worst possible thing that would happen if I didn't have this? If I did get rid of it and it turned out I was wrong, what would happen? And the other thing is we call the cost factor. And that's a really, really critical part, because with our finding system with the SOAR, I remember years ago, I had a client, we were back in the days before digital files, we had paper files. She was a business owner and she had 35,000 paper files. Did she need them? No. I mean, I knew as a business owner, she didn't, but her emotion required that point. She hadn't done the emotional work she needed to let go. So the cost factor is you can keep everything you want if you're willing to pay the price. And the price is time, space, money, and energy. So part of decluttering that's critical of decluttering is figuring out what's really important, because you can spend all of your time on all of these tools and all these organizing all this stuff, but not really do anything. The purpose of information is to help you accomplish your work and enjoy your life. And when you try to do too much of it, instead of accomplishing your work and enjoying your life, you just get stuck.
Mm-hmm. Amen. Amen. So here's what I want you to notice about this framework. There's no elaborate system. The first sort is not elaborate. There's no color coding. There's not even a marathon organizing session. Just one question asked over and over until everything has a home. Is this action, reference, or toss? That's flow. That's it. Okay. So now I want to be honest with you that the art framework takes about 10 minutes to understand. I mean, you guys, you might be brand new. This is the first time you've ever heard us, and you get it, right? You get it. Action, reference, and toss, right? But if understanding were enough, everyone who'd ever read an organizing book would have a clear desk all the time. And we know that's not what happens. How many of you guys have organizing books out there? Okay. So we had a member say something recently that I keep coming back to. She said, and I'm quoting her directly, "I finally feel like I'm not doing this alone." She'd read the books, she knew the concepts, but having a place to actually do the work week after week with support is what made it stick. So knowing it is one thing, but actually implementing it and creating habits around it is the other. Is really even more important. So just so you know, organizing is not a one-time project. It is a lifestyle to keep it up. And I don't say that's not a bad thing. It's just it's creating habits. And the people who succeed long-term are most always the ones who have a structure that keeps them coming back, not just a burst of motivation. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I've had those times as well where I get in my zone and I have this burst of motivation and I organize everything. I clean out the pantry. I do all these things. But then if I don't have habits that maintain it, it all comes right back, right? So anyway, let me just mention that if you want to go deeper than just understanding the framework, if you want to actually build that habit and have a place to implement it every single week, that's what our SOAR Spark program is. So Eds, if you'll drop the link for them, and we'll put it in the description here as well. We meet live weekly. I mean, we have an awesome training program, but if you just went through our training program one time and that was it, you know, you would most likely wouldn't be successful. It's the coming back. It's the continued connection and actually the habit of doing the work, doing your sorting. And then what the next step of that process is, you know, like I said, there are additional decisions to be made after you've done that first sort. And so that's what happens in our SOAR Spark program. So be sure to check that out when you get a chance. You have an option to join for a month, or you have an option to join for 3 months. And you can see how you build those habits. So let me pop back over to the questions or the comments really quick. Amy, I'm going to answer your question about scoreboard later. So Carla says the underlining, hold on, let me see hers. The underlining thread of the event in Arizona in order to keep moving forward, make a decision and accountability. Bam, PEI has the solution. That's right. That's right, Carla.
And the one more thing that we add into that is community, because it's easier. And part of what happened in Phoenix was you were in community. So you were in, and that's when you solve problems together, which is one of the PEI principles together.
Yes. Amen. Amen. And then Dan has a comment here. One reason TOSS is hard is that it's deciding I won't be reading this, even though I had wanted to, but hadn't made the decision yet to actually do it yet. So
right, I have to comment on that one, because there are two things that brings up here yet. One is that it's not being willing to, you can't change what you don't measure. So part of our program is, if you say, okay, I want to read this, then you have to put it on a date where you're going to read it. And if you move it enough times, eventually you'll say, that's really not going to happen. But what it brings up, which is the critical factor always, is the fear that you'll want it back, the fear that you'll make a mistake, the fear that you'll offend someone, the fear that you'll forget. And if you are not willing, I did a presentation last night, and everybody there, the biggest stumbling block was being afraid to go through the emotion of deciding. And that's critical. So how do you get through the emotional? First of all, you recognize that emotion is okay. Jesus wept. You can be say, okay, I wish I could read this, but I really don't have time. That you need to go through the emotion. But what helps you go through the emotion is, what is it that you want more than to read that piece of paper? So in Proverbs, it says, without a vision, the people perish. So part of what gets you over the fear of making a decision is having a passion for doing something else that's more important.
That's right. That is right. Now, if you are brand spanking new to us, I want to make sure that you get on our email list so that you can be notified of our upcoming workshop. We have a workshop coming up soon, and the only way you'll get notified of it is if you're on our email list. So we email, we do not like to clutter up your email inbox, guys. So we email a maximum of 3 times a week. So it's 2 to 3 times a week. But we want to make sure you get the announcement of our workshop that is coming soon. But for now, as we wrap up, start with art, action, reference, toss. Pick up one thing from your pile today. Maybe you go get the mail and you practice this with the mail. That's what I would recommend. And then pick up one thing from your pile today and ask the question, just one, is this action, reference, or toss? And see how that feels. And you can have an little action pile, and you can have a little reference pile, and then you don't even have to have a pile for the toss. Just have your trash can nearby. So action, reference, toss, or shredder, whatever works for you. And let me pop in Kathy's comment. Practice helps you develop that decision muscle. That's exactly right. So this will be, pretend this is your first day at the gym, and if Demetrius is still on here, this is your first day at the gym, and you're lifting weights. And you're just brand new with that, building that muscle, that bicep muscle. That's the same thing with this. Go get your mail today and practice. Lift that first weight. Practice with, is this action, reference, or toss? So we thank you for being here. If this was helpful, please subscribe to our channel and share it with someone think about someone right now who has a pile on their desk. Share it with them nicely. And then if you're able to, wherever you're watching this from, please leave a comment. We love your comments. And let us know, what your biggest challenge is with information flow. We'd love to hear that. All right. And grab our free training. As I mentioned earlier, the free training is, thank you, Ez. She's so fast. Oops, sorry. I overrode you. The free training is at lesscluttermorelife.com. I did mention getting on our email list, but I didn't mention that there's a free training there too. So make sure you get that. And all links will be in the description box below. And Barbara, I'm going to give you the last word.
Well, the question you could ask yourself is, what's the one thing that has to happen to make my desk more organized? And the answer to that probably is make decisions. So today's the day to start deciding.
Amen. That's a great wrap up. All right, guys, thanks so much for joining us. And we will see you on the next Pep Talk. Have a great week.